How to enter a purchase invoice into Sage Accounts. This would be normally a supplier invoice, and we click on suppliers on the left hand column. The process of entering a purchase invoice is normally after you have entered and completed the purchase order, or to enter a purchase invoice if no purchase order is required. So once you've gone into suppliers module, you will see a list of suppliers. Check that there is no red mark up here. This means that there's a filter turned on and you cannot see all of the products. So we turn the filter off by clicking on the red mark. The next stage is to go to batched invoice. We then enter the supplier's code. For example, if we were entering an invoice, purchase invoice for Exertis, start typing EX, and then you see there's a choice of Exertis or Exertis supplies. Be careful and make sure that it is the correct account for that particular invoice. Click on the supplier code, enter the tax point or invoice date. Now this is important. It normally comes up with the day's date. Then you enter the due date. Most invoices are for 30 days and the date comes in automatically. However, on some invoices, from example Terra, we get 60 days. If it is a 60-day invoice, this due on date needs to be changed. The reference would be the invoice number as is written on the invoice. The extra ref, the XREF, would be for our purchase order number, which normally would be found on the invoice or from the purchase order board. For a lot of suppliers, the nominal code is already predetermined, but however, it is important that we get this correct. I'll come back to nominal codes in a moment. Details of the invoice, which is the supplier reference, which in this case would be Exertis, which I can't spell, but it would be start with Exertis, and some other information which Louise would be only too pleased to share with you. The invoice amount, this is the amount pre-VAT, and when you have entered the amount, press tab, and the tax code again is normally predetermined, but I will come back to that in a moment, and the VAT rate for that tax code is automatically entered. This needs to be checked because in some cases the supplier's invoicing software may come up with a penny or two difference. When you're happy, you go down to the next line. Now, to copy the line above, so if there was another Exertis invoice, say for a different date, you would press the F6 key and it copies the line above. Manually change the date as before. The reference is the invoice number as on the invoice. Extra ref, if there is one, the purchase order. But if this was for a different purchase, you just click on the down arrow and choose the nominal code that is appropriate. So if it was, for example, a software subscription that we bought, say Office 365 invoice, we would change it to the 5005 by clicking on the blue line and clicking on OK. The details we've said, and if we put in the amount of the invoice, the VAT is automatically calculated, but as I've said, can be overridden if required. If we look at a different, rather than a component or product for resale invoice, such as an electricity bill, we would type in the code of the supplier, Eon in this case, the date, the tax point date, the date that it's due, the invoice number, There will be no purchase order, but as you can see, it's a different style of nominal code. If you click on the drop down arrow, you will see that there is a nominal code for electricity. If it was for van fuel, you would choose that particular nominal code. If it was car hire, travelling, if we're out on site and somebody has bought a receipt for lunch or drinks, if it's a postal stamps, that would be a different nominal code. So it's very, very important to get these nominal codes correctly. So again, the supplier code as is in the description, and followed by the bit that Louise will tell you, and then you check the nominal code. Now with electricity, sometimes you get a 5% charge for electricity. So let's just have a look at this. So if it was a 5% nominal, the tax code would need to be changed. And if you look down through here on the drop down, you'll see that there are different VAT rates. There is no 5% because we don't particularly need one or use one, because our electricity is for business. However, sometimes if you get an invoice from a supplier that is not VAT registered, you would have to use the T0 code for a 0 VAT rate. If it's for postage stamps, it would have to be the T9 postcode, which is also appears to be 0, but that is the tax code for items that are exempt. If you've made a mistake and wish to start a line again, just click anywhere in the line and press the F8 key. Or if you wanted also to put invoices in a sequence, for example, and you've missed one out, you can go and click on the line below where you wish the invoice to go and press the F7 key. That inserts a line so that you can insert the record where you wish. When you are done, I'm pressing F8 key to remove the line. When you are done, press the save key.